Hello, everyone. We still have a few people joining the webinar, but we're going to get started here in just a minute or two. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, How to Turn Your Digital Financial Education into a Seasonal Marketing Strategy. My name is Bryn, and I will be moderating today's webinar. If you have any technical difficulties or questions during the session, please let us know by typing into the chat box or into the webinar control panel itself. This webinar will be closed captioned, and you can access the captions by visiting everfi.com/captions. We have provided the link on the slide in front of you and in the chat box as well. As a number of you are aware of Everfi and what we do, but to provide a quick overview in case this is your first time connecting with us, Everfi has been around since the financial crisis in 2008, helping banks and credit unions use financial education to effectively connect with consumers and teach valuable skills that promote financial capability. Everfi's consumer financial education reaches 1.6 million adult learners annually and currently has partnerships with more than 850 financial institutions. And with that, I am pleased to introduce you to our presenters for today's webinar. First, I would like to introduce you to Dara Mackey, VP of Marketing at American Eagle Financial Credit Union. Dara manages and directs the credit union's brand and product marketing, community and public relations, and marketing automation functions. She has more than 20 years of experience in the marketing field, including traditional marketing, digital marketing, social media, people management, product management, branding, marketing strategy, research, and public relations. Our second speaker is Luis Aliano, Marketing and Brand Creative Director at American Eagle Financial Credit Union. Luis oversees the marketing programs and website digital components for the credit union, and she is responsible for managing creative resources and ensuring all the branding is consistent across all mediums. Luis has 26 years of experience in sales and marketing in the financial services sector and has been a member of the American Eagle team in various capacities for 14 years. And our final speaker today is George Logan, Financial Capability Network Demand Generation Manager at Everfi. He works closely with our product sales, website, and account management teams. And those are your speakers for today. And with that, I will pass it over to George.
Thanks, Bryn. And thank you everyone for attending today. As we begin to dive in, I wanted to provide a quick roadmap for this presentation. We will start off by addressing the financial institution marketing shift that is taking 2021 by storm, followed by Dara and Luis telling the American Eagle Financial Credit Union story and how digital financial education influenced their content marketing strategy. And then we'll wrap up this presentation by covering the Everfi difference, and there might even be a small surprise at the end. We'd be remiss if we didn't state this aloud, but as we all know, COVID-19 fundamentally changed the marketing landscape for financial institutions more rapidly than many of us were prepared to do. But really, the pandemic exacerbated and accelerated consumer demand and pain points that have simply been lurking for years. Today's consumers are smarter, more selective, more sophisticated, and all thanks to digital and mobile advancements. Simultaneously, there's a renewed energy and belief in marketing that is becoming the critical point between brands and consumers. However, it is only becoming a critical point if we are able to help them discover their own solutions to their own problems and not simply tell them about a product that we hope we want them to buy. If we take a look at the marketing industry on a whole heading into 2021, brand, content marketing, and digital transformation rank as probably the top three themes echoed across all industries, B2C, B2B marketers alike. As you'll see on this slide, 96% say that content is essential to building credibility and trust for their organizations. Some marketers report 2 times more conversions from interactive content over something passive like a blog post. And on average, CMOs are sharing that they plan to increase their digital investment by upwards of 25%. So all of this creates an enormous pressure on financial institutions when you consider that it's not just your bank or your credit union or your local competitors competing for consumer time and action, but really it's becoming the entire business landscape as we continue to shift to digital. It requires a dedicated, consistent, and methodical investment in building personalized micro moments that demonstrate upfront, immediate reward or value for your customers. In light of this conversation, I would actually like to pause here for a moment and take a quick poll of the audience. So as we activate the poll shortly, the question will be posed as, what is the #1 focus area or area of investment for your marketing team in 2021? There is content marketing, there is insights and data-driven marketing, there is philanthropy, charitable effort, and/or community-based marketing, and traditional approaches via mailers, radio, TV ads, or events. While everyone works through this question, I would actually like to open the floor to one of our guest speakers, Dara, to provide her answer aloud. Dara, the floor is yours.
So this is always a tough question because there's never just one, right? In looking at this list, I would say insights and data-driven marketing is one of the #1 focuses within our department. We have a lot of different initiatives going on this year, including we're going through a core conversion, we're moving to a new CRM and suite of BI tools, heavily focused on marketing automation, digital advertising. So in order to do all of those things well, you need to be focused on the data that you have available to you so that you're making good decisions. So I would have to select that one, but closely followed by the charitable effort through our charitable contribution strategy.
Very cool. It seems like actually the audience aligns with you. Insights and data-driven marketing is definitely kind of the front runner here. And quite frankly, I would say it's not much of a surprise based on, this digital shift that we're all seeing. Data can tell a story and, let us get ahead of our competitors. So in this next slide, we previously discussed the marketing industry as a whole. But what I would like to do is take one layer deeper and dig in on just the financial institutions. So in the summer of 2020, Everfi and the financial brand surveyed roughly 200 finance marketers and executives about 3 main problems: their biggest barrier to acquire new customers, the importance of digital engagement, and how they see their marketing mix shifting over the next year. Before we shift to the next slide and actually get into the data that we found in this report, I do want to call out that there is an active QR code on this page. So you actually have the opportunity to scan this QR code and download the COVID-19 report directly to your phone. I would note as well that, should you not have your phone on you, we will be sending out this COVID-19 report in a follow-up email. So as we dive deeper into this COVID-19 report, largely this data may not surprise you. COVID-19 inherently moved everyone online, so in-person programming and more traditional advertising were rendered less effective. But I think what's more critical to acknowledge are the fundamental changes required within our team to support these shifts to digital and shifts away from basically the in-person events, and basically how that will impact your strategy, your resource allocation, and your tech stack integrations. On this next slide, you'll see we're kind of reviewing the top 4 benefits marketing leaders see from their digital financial education strategies and how it largely is not what one would expect. Historically, we are focused on brand building and CRA for our banks in the audience, and other community relations initiatives. But if we step back and reevaluate the power of the adult program, it's much deeper than just brand and community building. The right financial education platform actually affords your institution the opportunity to design an entire marketing strategy and calendar around personalized content tied to your CRM or customer database. This starts to unlock the holy grail for marketing because it's still delivering the brand building that you need, but it's also teaching your consumers the behaviors you need and want them to adopt, which then in turn makes them likely to convert for you, and in turn from there makes them more valuable to you longer term by building loyalty, awareness, and affinity for other products and services. At this time, we will activate our next poll, which is, how does the data you have access to in your tech stack support your marketing strategy today? The options will be campaign tracking via a tag manager, CRM, or automation, in-platform dashboards, which provide specifics, but you don't have any systems linked to it, or you have limited visibility into your data, but you do track total website visits. Again, similar to the last poll, while everyone kind of thinks about this question to determine where they fall, I will open the floor up to Dara and Luis to provide their answer aloud.
Well, I would say that we're a little bit of all three. I think we all can agree that data tends to be a struggle and something that we constantly want more of. And we do have a portion of our materials where we are able to have very robust tracking via tags and CRM and through some level of automation. But in a lot of cases, it still remains, dashboards that we're pulling manually. I guess the last one really is probably the least like us, but we're really moving more towards that automated tracking, that first one, but we're probably somewhere in between the first and the second.
Yep, and I would say we will probably anticipate to see, if we were to take this poll in 1 year's time from now, I would, bet my bottom dollar that 56% would be even higher. It just seems the way that we are trending, the way that data is telling the story, and quite frankly, the new products that are coming out that allow us to integrate more seamlessly. I do completely agree with you there, Dara, that we will continue to shift into that campaign tracking automation as it becomes more and more important. So at this time in the presentation, we're actually going to shift gears and have Dara and Luis provide a deep dive on American Eagle Financial Credit Union and their digital financial education marketing strategy and how it's basically shifted over time and what it's become now.
So thank you all for coming today. We are hoping to be able to share some information with all of you about what has been successful for us in the areas of financial education. To give a brief background about us, American Eagle is a community credit union located in East Hartford, Connecticut. Over on the right there, you can see a photo of our headquarters. We were established in 1935 as a subset of Pratt & Whitney, now Raytheon Technologies. But many years later, we became a community credit union and are currently the largest community-based credit union in Connecticut, which is something we're very proud of. We serve Connecticut as well as Hampton County, Massachusetts, and have just over 160,000 members currently. And what you're seeing here is a copy of our mission and vision statement, which we revised in the very beginning of 2020 before COVID. And we felt like this was a better overview of where we feel we fit well within the community, but also our aspirations long-term. And the mission and vision at one point was quite lengthy. There were two separate statements, and we were able to combine them and break it down to something as simple as enriching the lives of our members and communities to create a world where financial freedom is a reality. So obviously, financial education plays a huge part in helping our community and our members be able to achieve that. We can move to the next slide. So a little bit about our past strategy and our current and future. So financial education has always been a very big part of who we are at American Eagle. We have always provided a lot of services within the community and spent a lot of time in the community, whether in schools or through adult education or through various programs, to go out and provide educational resources. And in the past, those were typically done in person, and things have clearly changed in the last year. But they were generally done through handouts and PowerPoint and things of that nature. And in a lot of cases, these same materials were provided regardless of the type of audience that you had. Things were very general and generic. And while all good intentions were there, the level of personalization that we have today wasn't quite present. So as we continue to move forward, when you look at the Everfi platform, the level of content is very specific to where the user is in their financial life cycle. So you may have someone who is in school, or they're opening their first checking account or savings account. Maybe they need a school loan. They're going to purchase their first car. They move into getting a mortgage and buying a house and then later refinancing. And then even later down the road, you start thinking about things like retirement planning and caring for an older loved one or family member. And those are all different things to navigate. There's different ways that you approach them. There's different things that you need to think about. And sometimes when people think about financial education, they think of it for the youth and just for younger folks. But it really is something that spans all walks of life. And in the last year, I think COVID really showed how much the world is lacking in the financial education department. So what started out as a very clear health crisis very quickly turned into a financial crisis, and it continues to be. And the emphasis is that, you know, there were so many folks that were impacted through job losses or funding losses, or their children were home and they didn't have childcare. And there was a much larger focus on, okay, what do I do now? How do I get funding? How am I going to pay my bills? And I'm sure that you all saw lots of members coming in and asking for help, whether it was deferring loan payments or finding ways to have fees reimbursed. It was, the last year was just, I think, a big wake-up call for all Americans of all ages. So fortunately, this was something that we had already put into place. And I'll be honest in saying that when we first rolled it out, we didn't put a whole lot of meat into it, purely because there were so many other initiatives going on. And we'll talk a little bit later about the types of things that we did, but simply putting it out there wasn't enough. There needed to be more promotion and presentation behind it to make it successful. So this is an overview of American Eagle's stats with the Everfi platform, which we feel like are pretty impressive, especially considering in 2019, when we first launched in the second half of the year, we pushed it first out to our employee base, which I think was key, because we wanted them to fully understand what was in there, be able to answer any questions that members might have, and be able to navigate through the various areas. Although if you've been in there, you'll know that it's quite easy to figure out where to go and when. The interesting thing was that we heard from our employees that they felt like a lot of it was too easy or too simple, and would people really use it? And when we pushed it out broadly, our top two modules being used are the basics and then retirement planning, which is interesting because clearly opposite ends of the spectrum. But when you look at the statistics on the screen right now, when we have, you know, close to 27,000 unique program users, that's roughly 17% of our membership. And you're seeing that they're spending quite a bit of time on there as well. When you look at the modules, they're generally around 3 to 5 minutes in nature. But when you're seeing 42 minutes, that is telling us that folks are spending a lot of time either navigating through different modules, or they're taking the time to go through and read the additional materials. So there's articles you can read and there's videos. So while the module is very short in nature, and we do heavily market that fact, knowing that people don't want to spend a ton of time reading through something, and if they hear 3 to 5 minutes, they might be more likely to say, yeah, I'll click through that. That's not going to take too much of my time. But when you're seeing people spend that much time in there, you're seeing that they find value in the information. So this was one of the cases where the subject matter expert became the customer. So in a lot of cases, internally, we will talk to our employees to understand, what do you think of this? How do you think our members will respond? And in this case, it was a little bit different because clearly we know more about finances than the average person because of what we do for a living. But I think we underestimated what people really needed and the level of engagement that people needed, seeing that that basic module, it has been so successful for us. And then obviously the number of activities that have started to show that we have repeat visitors as well. So they are seeing the value in that information, and we couldn't be happier with the response that we've seen so far. So what you're seeing here is a copy of our website. And as I'm sure all of you are aware, it is Financial Literacy Month right now. And what we generally do is, in addition to ongoing marketing of this platform, we also find ways to couple it with bigger events or happenings that are going on, which Louise will talk about in a few moments. So if you visited our website right now, you would see this on our homepage. And then that brings you over to our module. And we have found that to be very successful as well. So one of the things that I will tell you is we did make that commitment on our website and we built out that area for it, but people weren't just going there. And we have a little bit more information about that a little bit later as well. But just simply having it out there wasn't enough. People aren't engaged enough to go and simply look for financial education, which is interesting because you'll hear time and time again, people need more financial education, but they're not actually out there looking for it. You have to really bring it to them and show them where it is and tell them what's available. So while we had it out there, that is step one, and that's very important, but actually doing that marketing and providing that information about how to get there and what's available was key to the success of this. So you'll see on here, we have it up in our homepage banner right now because it is Financial Literacy Month. But at any other given time, we try to have it at least live within our mid-page banner, and it is accessible through our main menu up top. And then again, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but we do regularly promote the channel through social media, letting people know about the different modules that are out there and what's available and what can be used. The other great part about the Everfi platform is that they are continually adding new modules as relevant to what's happening. So within COVID-19, again, huge challenges in the financial industry, huge challenges on people in their homes financially. They had added a financial wellness during uncertain times module, and it couldn't have been more relevant for what was happening in the world. So we took the opportunity to push that out to our members and provide them with that help during that time to figure out, okay, what do I do now? How do I budget? How am I putting money away? How am I paying my bills? The needs of people had changed, and Everfi was able to provide additional educational materials to address what was happening at that time. And then again, just talking further about, it really is the full commitment to financial education. And as I mentioned, financial education has always been very important for us. It's part of who we are. It's a part of our brand. And this is a brand play from my perspective. Being able to provide this to anyone is something of tremendous value. And when we promote it, we do say, you don't have to be a member. You can just come to our website. You don't have to log into anything. And there is that ability for folks to register. And that has been a little bit more of a challenge for us. But Louise will talk a bit about what we did to try to increase that number. But at the same time, while if you get the registration, you have the ability to follow up with those folks and market to them more proactively. But just having these prospects come into your site and using the materials helps them get to know you as a resource that's there to help. And then we follow that up with having our frontline staff available to answer any questions, talk through any planning. It's basically a bigger part of an all-encompassing plan for us to be that go-to institution for anyone out in our communities. And as you'll see here, we have it on our website, it's on social media, email, promotions, advertising. And the great thing about within the Everfi platform as well, and I'm sure everyone is crazy busy just like our department is, they have all of these great templates in there that you can personalize, update, make changes to. So it makes it really easy for you to push something out very quickly. We have a digital specialist on our team, and that has been key to a lot of our success as well, because we are very focused and committed to being digital and automated, and are making the investments to be able to do so, with this being a part of it. So she's able to go in there, see what's available, update something at any given time, so that it doesn't always have to be tied to something specific that's going on. You really can be pushing that information out on a regular basis to your members. And that's been a huge advantage for us as well. And so now I'm going to kick it over to Louise, and she is going to take you through some of the specifics, as she and our digital specialist have really spearheaded all of these initiatives and rollouts. So
thank you so much, Dara. Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you today. We are really excited. And as Dara was mentioning, obviously, American Eagle really does focus on financial education as a part of the way we do business. We're member focused, and it's just how we do business. So it's such a natural fit for us. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, although the particular instance that I'm going to speak of is America Saves Week, which was pre-pandemic, which I think we're hoping is how our lives will be moving forward, right? It's such a natural fit for many financial institutions. And as Dara said, the toolkits that Everfi provides are robust. You can plug and play, you can customize them. I think, having a dedicated representative, we happen to have Emily Sherman. She's phenomenal. She is just a phone call or an email away. So it's really a partnership with our financial education program in Everfi, and I think that's one of the points that I wanted to make. And with COVID-19, and specifically the playlist that Dara was speaking to, that we leverage throughout coronavirus, it's such a turnkey solution that I believe it really allows even the smallest marketing departments to be nimble and responsive. I mean, even during the pandemic, when we had so many communications that we had to get to regarding, business interruptions, branches closing, just the drive-ups are open now, we were still able to implement and execute and get in front of members and even prospects to give them the information that they needed to give them some comfort during this time. So I just wanted to add that to Dara's thing. So let's talk about this success story with America Saves Week. This was pre-COVID. It was in February. And I think it's a really powerful example of how a promotion that's coupled with a national campaign can really drive significant results. As you're probably all familiar, American Saves Week is 1 week a year. You can pledge to be part of it. American Eagle did, and we said this is a great way to really push our financial education platform and get people really engaged. So this particular campaign, we reached out to both members and prospects. We did some advertising. We also obviously spoke to our internal members, but what this program was we invite you to visit our website, go to our financial education page, take the Financial Foundations module, and once you finish that module, it's called a custom moment in Everfi, which I'm sure that's a little bit nitty and gritty, but basically it gives you an opportunity to present your customers, our members, with different incentives or different programs that you may want to highlight outside of their specific offerings. And this was a module that they completed. They were presented with a gift certificate, which they either had to print or they had to bring into a branch on their phone and show and meet with a representative who could give them somewhat of a financial checkup, and we would ultimately give them $25 in their checking account. So obviously that's sort of a tactical execution that I'm explaining, but I think what it shows is the power of how you can weave a program like Everfi, leverage the digital solution, which is driving them to your website and getting them to take action. So you're really weaving it into the way you do business. It's not just sitting as a separate entity on your website as just financial education, or in your branch as a take one of different offerings. So I thought that was a great example. I can give you a few stats on that. I do have some stats on that. This particular campaign drove over half of our page views last year. So over 3,500 page views in just 1 week. We had several hundred completes that led from a variety of marketing channels. I think I mentioned before, we did leverage all different types of media. So we used email for internal, we did online banking. Online banking proves to be very, very powerful with our existing member base. We did paid ads, we did a lot of social media. And again, we were leveraging the America Saves content as well as some of the Everfi platform. So I think we can move to the next slide. I have one final slide. And this is really just capturing the analytics and how important the analytics is. This slide, I have two things on here, and I'm not sure how clear they are, and I apologize if they're a little fuzzy, but I'll speak to them. So the top one is really just showing you 2020 in general. There's a little bit of 2019 poked in there, but this big spike is where you see this America Saves campaign. And you can see just how much traffic we drove with that campaign. You see that we go a little bit quiet here, as we were finding our way, and other communications from a marketing perspective were more important. We were learning how to work at home with our kids. We were learning how to not be in an office, have closed branches and things like that. And then you can see once we got back into our marketing calendar and we were really able to do business as a new normal, you can just see this consistency throughout the rest of the year because we did make it part of our marketing calendar. And I think that's the point that I want to make here is if you can really make financial education part of your marketing calendar, Everfi can really provide you with the resources you need to do that in a very logical, easy fashion. And as Dara mentioned too, it's not just specific. I think we say from K to gray sometimes is one of the terms we like to use, but there's things on there from basic, savings and budgeting all the way to retirement and even elder fraud and, helping elderly people avoid fraud and how do they work with their finances. So I think that's the point that I wanted to make there. And then the other snapshot that you see here is our Google Analytics, and we do leverage as much data as we can. As Dara mentioned in that first poll question, we kind of have to still bring a few things together as we're not fully where we want to be, but as most of you know, there's information you can get off various platforms, but Google data, we had over 9,000 visits to this web page last year, and that's during a pandemic. Coming from all sorts of areas. Google, we had some organic traffic, but we also had that paid advertising that fares well for us, as well as online banking and such. So I think those are just two good examples to show you the importance of analytics and really putting financial education in a place on your website that's as important as your products and services. Can really make a difference to your business. I think it can really help you differentiate yourselves from your competitors because everybody has checkings and savings account, but not everybody is offering free education that's just going to make people, feel more comfortable. So I encourage you to see how financial education does fit into your marketing strategy. I think that's all I have, and I will hand it back to George. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you again, Dara and Luis, for taking us through that journey. What an incredible pivot and success American Eagle has had. As we near the end of this webinar, I would like to take a moment and highlight some of the Everfi products we offer. So as Luis mentioned, I would like to introduce to you the K to Gray spectrum, which captures Everfi's 4 different ways to reach consumers where they are. Our first, the school sponsorships, all the way on the left side of the slide, essentially helps organizations build financial literacy to solve for that missing layer in education while simultaneously building brand recognition. Second, our Achieve modules. This is about a 3 to 5 minute subscription where highly interactive financial wellness modules that do include the custom moments, as Luis mentioned, ranging from fundamentals like budgeting and planning to elder fraud and even identity theft. These modules live on your website and apps and are branded to your institution. And just for reference, this is exactly what American Eagle FCU has been using to reach their customers. Third, we have the Engage workshops, which is where we provide you the facilitator and participant guides, the slide presentation, talking points and activities, as well as the platform to track participation. The idea behind the Engage platform is essentially to enable our partners to spend their time delivering and training content rather than building it. And lastly, which is very, very new to us, we have our financial literacy bee. So right after school shut down in 2020, partners were looking for a way to engage kids at home. So we built the first financial literacy bee almost overnight. It offered a way for financial institutions to get the message out during Financial Literacy Month and engage Gen Z. Students completed a number of 10-minute modules, and after that completion, they were able to enter an essay writing contest to compete for scholarship prizes, which Everfi awarded. And for reference, the fact that we line this up with Financial Literacy Month, our 2021 Financial Literacy Bee wraps up this year, and we were able to have just over 8,200 student users, and we received just over 2,800 essays. In reference to maintaining the relevant story of American Eagle, I would like to dive in on this next slide, basically to learn more about Achieve and its consumer opportunities. So here you'll basically see the 5 key differentiators from our Achieve platform in terms of why partners choose us. We are mobile first, which promotes that just-in-time financial wellness education. We are customizable with numerous opportunities for private labeled and branded content. We are also interactive with engaging educational experiences. We are measurable through comprehensive data reporting, and we are scalable by providing digital education across key communities. But that's not all. We are continually evolving and getting better. As mentioned previously, throughout COVID, we were adding in new relevant modules. And with that, I would also like to call out that we are planning to roll out Achieve 3.0 at the end of April. If we could jump to the next slide, I think there are, yep, exactly. So here we are. So we have updates to include a refreshed look to drive learner engagement, new education modules to support your key communities, and more marketing integration options. The cleaner design gives partners more advanced branding and customization. And based on feedback from our partners and the communities they serve, we built out brand new small business modules, including something like financial hardships. We have customer acquisition, how to grow a team effectively, and how to start funding. And the new marketing integration leads to deeper insights by integrating with tracking, retargeting, analytics tools such as Adobe Analytics and Google Tag Manager. And when we're thinking about Everfi, the actual tangible product is not the only thing that we have to offer. As previously mentioned, we also include marketing toolkits to serve up the content you need to advertise and share your financial education with consumers. So on this next slide, you'll see whether you're trying to target specific consumers or your entire customer member base, we'll supply email copy, social media copy, and social media tiles, emails for your staff, as well as an awesome design resources like social media graphics, email and web banners, logo files, and stock photography. All you need to do is commit this to your marketing calendar and send it off. And as we're starting to near the end of this webinar, what we'd like to do is open up the floor for 1 to 2 questions. But just before we do that, we would like to learn if anyone would be curious about learning more about financial education platform and ways Everfi may be able to further support your work. And then, as mentioned, we'll continue to let this poll run for a couple more seconds. And then from there, I did at the beginning of this webinar open up with a teaser mentioning there may be a surprise, and on this next slide, I promise we will be able to get out a beautiful marketing toolkit for you all to use. It is built and ready, something that we will share in the chat. So this is essentially just a thank you. We've unlocked basically our top seasonal marketing plays for all of Q2. This is essentially a, out of the box cut and paste, use as you please, customize as you please, and use them for your institution. And the idea here is that this is a light version of what all of our customers get. So again, feel free to use that. And at this point, we will now open it up for questions. I do believe we had 2 questions come in previously prior to the webinar, but again, Bryn, I will pass it back to you as you are kind of handling this part of the presentation.
Absolutely. Thanks, George. And thanks for a great presentation. That was incredibly interesting and loved hearing the story there. So a few questions that we had come in ahead of the webinar was around describing your relationship and interactions with Everfi on a day-to-day basis. Dara and Louise, I think this would be best answered by you.
So Louise definitely handles more of the day-to-day interaction, so I think she would be better to answer that. Louise, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. I think in the presentation I mentioned I call her my buddy, actually, my partner, Emily. Yeah, our day-to-day interactions with Emily are, I think, the key to our success. She is incredibly timely and always getting us new information when they're releasing new programs. If there is, for example, this month we have Financial Literacy Month. She'll send over that package. We have quarterly follow-up calls. And honestly, she's just a phone call or an email away. And there are many times, I'll ask her advice on best practices because we may want to do something different. And she truly is a partner. And I know many of us can speak to other vendor relationships where you sort of, you get the romance in the beginning and then it kind of drops off and your account manager is nowhere to be found. And that is not the case with Everfi. I can speak to that. We're now in year 2. So I can't speak highly enough. And I truly don't think I'd be as successful if it wasn't for Emily being a true partner and keeping me abreast of everything going on and just having a great open dialogue with us, and my coworker Allison, who helps with all of our digital aspects as well. So I hope that's helpful.
Great, thank you. The next question that we have is, how can you use data captured in the Everfi platform to influence your content strategy? George, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the module playlist insights provided a granular data on which modules your consumers are using the most and least. So for example, when Dara was mentioning the fact that the intro actually seemed to be kind of more of the hot modules, if you will, for her consumer base. That is a very interesting and gleaning insight, which can actually infer how you want to determine your next steps in terms of building out content. So let's use an example and say that in the module insights, I see the top module for my customer base is home mortgages and financing new homes. So knowing that this topic is important to my customer base right now, I could go and create a specific piece of content or produce a blog post speaking to this, or even create a shortcut on my website. If you're familiar with chatbots like Drift, then you can actually help your customer base get to either that module or get to a piece of material substantially faster and more efficiently. So that's one way to impact it, but also at the end of the day, this sheds light on potential seasonality of what is hot right now, but what might not be hot in the fall. So when you think about college picking up probably through the beginning of Q1, Q2, and then it really falls off maybe when you start thinking, okay, now I'm in college in the fall, how you push and weave your content There's absolutely seasonal plays, and seeing what picks up in the module insights is probably something that can very definitively drive your strategy along with the marketing toolkits that come with it.
Great. Thanks, George. This next question would be for Dara and Louise. And it's around how American Eagle meets member demands when they indicate that they are interested in a new topic. For example, by searching for information either on Google or on your on-site search tool. For example, if someone's typing in how to budget, tips for managing debt, etc. Are you using Everfi content to answer some of those questions?
Absolutely. We've driven folks over to the module for a number of reasons. Going back to what George was just referencing about students, if they are opening a student account, you're obviously inferring that it's the first time that they've had a checking account. We're able to say, you know, here's your account, here's what it comes with, and talk them through some things, but being able to send them home with that resource and allowing them to use it at their leisure allows them to really dig into what they need the most assistance with. So some people may know a lot about something, need more assistance with something else. And then what we were speaking to earlier, if they want to get in there and kick through the 3 to 5 minute module and that's enough for them, they can do that. But if they need more, they have more questions, they can utilize those articles in those videos that are available. Something else that we've used a lot is the first-time homebuyer module. So that's something that we tied into a campaign at one point as well, where if you go in and complete these modules and then provide us with the documentation that you can print out, you get your certificate at the end, that we would do reduced closing costs and things like that. So we've absolutely found ways to respond to members, both proactively in those instances, and then also reactively. So especially during COVID, with the managing your budget during uncertain times, we pushed that out quite a bit because, as I had mentioned earlier, we did have so many members that reached out for help. And we wanted to be there for them to help them navigate through, obviously, a very unprecedented time in their lives, but also help reassure them and know that that's what we're here for. We're here to educate you, we're to help you. So I would actually say that we use the tool quite a bit in response to member questions or in conjunction with a product or service that the member is taking on for the first time. But also if we happen to hear about something that they are interested in and maybe it's not a part of the tool today, we share it with our rep, and then potentially that's something that can be built so that we can use it in the future.
Great. That was a really insightful answer. Another question for you both is diving a little bit deeper on the America Saves Week promotion. How many of your members took advantage of the promotion, and would you run it again?
So you want to take that one, Louise?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, so we had almost 598 completes with that. So we had 598 people come in and present that certificate. So I think to answer that question, absolutely. Obviously, we may do it a little differently now that, you know, driving traffic to a branch still isn't, you know, the way to go with COVID and everything. But I think what that program and that promotion showed was the power of taking a national campaign and adding it to the Everfi package and getting people engaged in something that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have known about. And obviously the incentive of the $25 in this instance really motivated people to actually go there. And, you know, I'd like to actually go back and see the data to see if people now know it as a resource and are more likely to use it subsequently, having had that experience. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely. 600 respondents in a 1 week period of time, we were incredibly happy with. And as you know, it drove, you know, 35 plus 100 visits just to that page. So even people that didn't complete it may have started a module, and at least they were made aware. So to us, it was an incredibly successful campaign.
That's fantastic. And we do have one follow-up question off of that answer. So, and it's more on the platform side, but since you used a custom moment slide as the gift certificate, were you able to require people to create an account or enter any personal contact information?
Sorry, I went ahead and muted myself again at the end of the last question. Sorry for that pause. So when you create a custom moment, I believe you have to, and you know what, George, you might be able to jump in and help me with this one, but I believe you have to register. As far as following up with members, we haven't remarketed, given that that particular campaign happened, 2 weeks before the onset of COVID. So normally we would have done some remarketing to those folks, but given the circumstances of COVID-19, that particular program ran, and then we jumped into COVID-19 mode, which was all about business continuity communications with our members during that time.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I think that is all the questions that we have today. So I want to take this moment and really thank you all for attending our webinar. We hope you enjoyed the session. And a huge thank you to our wonderful presenters for sharing their insights. We will be following up, sharing the video recording and the slides by early next week. And we also want to encourage you to take a moment to complete the brief survey that will launch when I close out the webinar. We really are a data-driven organization, and we deeply value your feedback. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to having you attend future Everfi webinars. Have a great day.